4 is by far the most unique Kirby game gameplay-wise. In a series which more or less keeps the fundamental controls and mechanics consistent between every game, it decides to completely change the copy ability system by implementing a mixed system where you can combine two abilities, making for 35 of the most unique moves Kirby has ever had at its disposal. Unique doesn't necessarily mean good, but that's besides the point. To actually mix these abilities, you need to press the shoulder button to eject your copy ability and hold it above your head, and then throw it at an enemy. However, that's not the only thing this button does. If you press the button after you've inhaled something, Kirby will hold the enemy above his head, but for some reason they decided to give different enemies different properties while held. I didn't even know this was a thing until I watched Philbo's playthrough of Kirby 64 where he utilized them, and it's kind of fascinated me ever since, so I decided to document every single held enemy property in this video. The way I decided to go about this is by taking the two lists of enemies on Wick Kirby's Kirby 64 page, slap them on a spreadsheet, go to the individual pages to see when they first appear, slap that on the spreadsheet, and then go through them all individually to see what they do. I also decided to add the projectiles to the bosses shootout and whatever copy ability the enemies give when inhaled in the spreadsheet for some reason. So, for the video I'm gonna be going through them in the same order I did when recording this, in chronological order of when they first appear. I see no further reason to beat around the bush, so we might as well start off with Planet Popstar. The first enemy you see in this game is NZ. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually do anything when held or thrown, but I can't say I have any better ideas what to make them do. They're practically dark matter waddles. Next is Bobo, but they don't have any unique properties either. I even tried to test if it acted like a permanent fire hitbox above Kirby, but it wasn't. Punk doesn't have any unique behavior either, but it does curl into a ball whenever it's thrown instead of the usual spinning animations. Circuball has potential. They could have kept having him throw his cutters or something, but no, Circuball has no unique properties. Bouncy is boring as well. Yippee! At least his throw animation is really funny with how it moves during the spin. Bronto Burt finally shows the reason why I wanted to make this video. Whenever you bring out the Bronto Burt, Kirby leaps forward and moves like one. You can't control how fast it moves or where it takes you either, since your controller is locked aside from pressing down to get the Bronto Burt back in your mouth. Additionally, when it's thrown, it flees out to the top of the screen in a very Bronto Burt-like way. Golan continues to show interesting behavior as they keep shooting as usual, but really fast. This isn't really that practical since you can only attack upwards, and if something lands on you, then the glunk dies, but I still think it's cool to see stuff like this. Flutter was on the Wick Kirby enemy list since they have a card entry, so they're going on the list despite being completely non-interactable. Chotzo! It's a Chotzo! Pocket Bros Jr. spawns are inhalable, and when thrown back, they cause an explosion, so Kirby basically just gets a pseudo-bomb ability if he doesn't swallow them. Poppy himself doesn't have any unique behavior, but I think the bomb activity makes up for it. Flyable starts off with Might. I honestly wasn't expecting much from them, and picking them up didn't show much, but then I threw them. They just burrowed into the ground upon impact. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't respawn, and it still explodes upon impact with a wall or an enemy. But still, for Bumper... Holy shit, is that Parasol in Kirby 64? Yeah, they decided to bring back Parasol's glide through Bumper. Though aside from that, they don't have any unique behavior. Kaden was another one I wasn't expecting much for. Like, maybe it would make me fall down faster, but it didn't even do that. Then I threw it horizontally, and the three individual pieces went on their own. All three pieces can combine into other abilities, by the way. It's literally just 3 projectiles in one. Farky is next. Though, unfortunately they don't have any interesting behavior. I even tried replicating the plasma ability by spamming directional inputs, but that didn't do anything either. I really tried inhaling Poopa despite the Kirby Wiki setting that I couldn't, but yeah, no, Poopa is completely uninhalable. She'll actually has the same thing going on as Cairn, but instead of 3 pieces, it's 2 pieces. Also, I forgot to try inhaling Gordo in this stage, so here's me doing it in 1-3 instead. It's a Gordo! 1-3 basically immediately starts off with Scud, who acts like a missile when thrown. Not only does it explode upon impact, but it also has a unique acceleration speed. It's basically a bomb, but with one rocket and it doesn't home in on enemies. The developers pretty much did nothing for Ghost Knight. It doesn't even have any unique animations, and the glance isn't even kept in the held model. Sawyer has a unique horizontal throw spinning animation, only spinning 2-dimensionally, but aside from that it doesn't behave any differently. Bivolt is completely uninhalable, so nothing to say there. Now we're at the first boss of the game. Not much to say though, since Wispy Plus Jr. is uninhalable due to damaging them being the whole point of the first phase of the boss, and the apples used to attack them don't do anything unique either. Their sole usage is to be a projectile after all. The first new enemy you see in the stage is cacti. They don't behave in any unique way, but the throw animation puts them in their spinning animation they use when moving around, which I think is pretty cool. Then we had the very creative enemy named Sandman. They spontaneously combust in Kirby's hands. You cannot inhale the big Kaboo building. I tried. Ice 3 is uninhalable due to being literally a thwomp. Or is it I-cubed? Funnily enough, this level decided to introduce 7 new enemies, but have 4 of them only appear in the final room for some reason. First one you see is the Scarfy. It actually acts kinda differently in this game, mimicking the behavior of a Mario Boo. Though if you inhale them, they act in the same way they do in other Kirby games. So they're uninhalable. Flopper is just put here for some reason. I don't even really understand why they decided to put this little bit of water here, honestly. But I went into a stage of Aqua Star to give Flopper a real shot using the water, and it paid off that they moved Kirby forward in the water with no real way to change the verticality of speed while holding Flopper out. Next up is Goblin, but like, does this thing even look inhalable to you? There's no way I'm actually going to... Huh? They don't actually have any unique behavior aside from a unique throwing animation where it just keeps chomping forward. But honestly, I'm just flabbergasted that this thing is inhalable at all. Lastly, we have Gabon, whom I decided to experiment in a different stage where they appear earlier. Neither his hat or body has any unique behavior, and their bone projectiles are uninhalable. How exciting. Hack doesn't actually present any unique behavior aside from losing his feet and being thrown 2-dimensionally. But they make it possible to create an image of Kirby canonically holding a giant axe, which is really funny and makes it worth it. Rocky doesn't have any unique behavior, though they're like Hack in that they lose their feet when held, so Kirby's just holding a big rock. Ruff once again has no unique behavior, nothing interesting going on animation-wise either. You really peaked back in Dreamland 2, what happened to you? Mummies acts as they do in every other game, completely uninhalable. New is also in the uninhalable boat, not even their projectiles can be inhaled. Capar doesn't have any interesting behavior, but I really like your sitting pose. Propeller, well, propels Kirby into the air. Its vertical movement can't be controlled, but you can still move horizontally while being propelled. However, the propeller will die if it touches the ceiling, so be careful about that. Galva is actually one of the most useful ones to carry above you. They keep going with their fire attack but significantly faster. Also, they use the sad eye texture when thrown away. In other words, holy shit, fire in Kirby 64, what the fuck? Kirby Wiki states that Turbite appears in this stage, but I couldn't find them, so I hopped onto Ripple's Heart to find them. They do nothing interesting! Yippee! First off is Bonehead, who has no special behavior, which is honestly a shame. I feel like they could have done something with the movement pattern this enemy uses. Bow spontaneously combusts like Sandman, which is kind of interesting, honestly. Snipper is yet another uninhalable enemy. What the fuck did it mean for you to reappear in Kirby Tilt and Tumble back in release after 64? Fishbone is another one of the most practical enemies to hold, as it just keeps going with its attack but really fast. You can also pick up the projectile itself, but there isn't any special behavior coded in for it. Ariel just stays in their black orb form and does nothing interesting. Kiki always just appears in the background, unlike Dreamland 3 where you can directly interact with them and get the cleaning ability. This obviously means that you can't inhale Kiki, so there's no special behavior when they're held. Well, Shatzos! They're Shatzos! Sparkhead was probably one of the enemies that surprised me the most. Not only did they keep going with their usual attack, but they shoot 3 orbs at a time, 1 straight forward and 2 diagonally. It honestly feels like something you'd see from an Animal Friend ability combo, but automated. The Pix boss battle does indeed have some inhalable objects. Unfortunately, they do nothing interesting. Honestly, I think it would have been cool if they had the animations where they rotate in a specific axis. Like one rotates along the x-axis, one rotates along the y-axis, and one rotates around the z-axis. but they didn't do that. Pompeii! It really feels like the kind of enemy where you'd start replicating what they do, but no, it doesn't have any special behavior. At least you can still get Firestone if you want to experience what it's like to be at Pompeii. Or just pick up a Glunk. Katie, on the other hand, does attack faster than usual when held. Interesting. Seafon is still uninhalable though. Pretty sure the only appearance of Chacha in this stage is in the background here, but I went to another stage to see what they did, and despite being a top tier Kirby 64 enemy, they do nothing interesting when held or thrown. Come on, Imp, do a Penguin Slider something when I throw you. You're a disappointment. Glom is yet another uninhalable enemy, just hiding in the background the entire time. Yakira has no special behavior and their projectiles aren't inhalable. Squibby is yet another enemy with no unique behavior. Alright, next up we have Rick. Wait, huh? Oh, that's supposed to say Tick. Tick falls into the base category of keeping their usual moves going but a lot faster. They even stick into walls for a bit before dying when thrown at one. Zeus doesn't present any interesting behavior and the projectiles can't be inhaled. So basically it's a flying Yakiro. Apparently Splinter is enemy enough to count for the Win Kirby list, so they're counted here too. Yeah, that's more or less what I expected. The only new enemy introduced in this stage is Blowfish, this self-destructing fish. If you hold them up for too long after blowing them, they'll still bust like they usually do. Though, if you throw them in time, they have their own acceleration speed, and this is different from the missile acceleration speed. 3-4 introduces Pedo, who also gets to in the same missile vein as Scud. Their name is short for Torpedo. As usual, we need to check in on the bots to see if the projectiles you're given have any interest in going on. I decided to count the Bonehead skull out as a different alien spreadsheet than Bonehead, though it doesn't present any interesting behavior anyway. The rocks you get aren't any more interesting either, it's all just projectiles. Karen makes Kirby soar through the air while very slowly going downwards in the same way the enemy does normally. Once again with no way to control the movement, it's basically the bird equivalent to Flapper. It also gets thrown with a constant speed, like the missile enemies. This level also has Flora, who once again makes Kirby imitate the behavior of the enemy, slowly gliding forward and then falling down after Kirby jumps. Interestingly, unlike the Brontobirds, this is triggered every time Kirby jumps rather than whenever he lets Flora out. This level only introduces Drop as an enemy type. They spontaneously combust when held. Wow. Mahal, the only new enemy in this stage, has no unique behavior. Wow. The volcano debris has a name for some reason. It's called Ignis. Dunno why, but sure. Anyway, it has no interesting behavior when held or thrown, no matter what size of Ignis you're dealing with. Burnus finally gives me something interesting to talk about. Since when thrown, they move in the same way as the missile enemies, but they don't explode. Magoo is actually really interesting since they decide to get in this upward angle when thrown, except instead of completing the full angle, they just die in the middle of it, making it extremely impractical. Oh wow, I sure do wonder if the inhalable stone object means solely to damage the boss has any unique behavior? It doesn't? What? Frickus, being the ice equivalent to Burnus, acts in the same way as Burnus, having the missile movement without exploding. Slushy, the enemy that barely appears in this game, actually has one of the most unique traits in the game. It kinda just moves Kirby in random directions when underwater. On the other side of the coin, Pod has nothing interesting going on. I forgot to add into the scripts before I started editing this video, but Maw also appears in this stage. They act pretty much identically to Pacto from Kirby's Dream Land 3, including the fact that you can inhale them. Kirby had not learned the big suck yet. Next up is Zero 2. Oh man, this thing is heavy. Oh, the instruction manual is talking about Mupu, the Jolly Cloud enemy. Very easy to mix up, I get it. Though, jokes aside, Mupu doesn't have any interesting behavior, though it does keep its trail when held enthroned. The mall level introduces Plug, who reuses the sticking to wall tree that Tick introduced, though they don't do anything past that. Also, I kind of expected the factory tour stage to introduce more than one enemy, but the only enemy introduced here is Rockin, who really is a land version of Pedo, thus acting in the exact same way when held, which in of itself is the same way that Scud acts when held. Okay, so the general Rock use to damage HRH is boring, but the Rocket's HRH sends out use the same missile behavior as Scud, Pedo, and Rockin. And the Rocket's HRE sends out explosive on impact without a missile acceleration. Ripple Star, being the last level, doesn't introduce any more enemies, but Miracle Man has some projectiles to check out. Bomb, Cutter, Fire, Ice, Needle, Spark, and Stone. None of them had any interesting behavior. Except maybe Fire, since it keeps its smoke particles while it's held. And there you go! Every single Kirby 64 enemy's held behavior documented. If I end up realizing that I missed something, then I'll just leave a pinned comment about it. If you want some data, 17 enemies were uninhalable, 36 enemies had no special behavior or animation, 7 enemies kept their usual movement pattern going a bit faster, 6 enemies had a unique spinning animation and nothing else, 7 enemies had missile acceleration, 5 of which exploding like one too, 6 enemies affected Kirby's movement, and 9 enemies had other miscellaneous gimmicks while held. What makes these interesting to me is that there's a lot of effort put into making some of these unique and others just look completely basic, but ultimately it's all just completely useless since even for the ones with practical use, they get completely overshadowed by copy abilities. It's generally hard to go out of your way to equip and keep any of these guys above your head since they're so fragile in this state. I honestly think there's a lot of potential with this, but not in a game like Kirby 64 where the copy abilities make them completely redundant. Honestly, if they make another game like Kirby's Dream Land where there aren't any abilities, I'd love to see them expanded upon a concept like this. Instead of nailing an enemy to get an ability that vaguely resembles their moveset, you get to use the enemies themselves with their exact moves, even if they're really simple. I also think this is a cool way to bring some personality into the enemies. I've never really thought much about the original enemies in 64, for the most part I just registered them as simple shapes, but analyzing them to this degree has really given me an appreciation for these goobers, and I'll probably appreciate them even more if using them like this was actually beneficial. Honestly, I wonder if they were actually planning on doing anything with this system or if it was just supposed to be a fun additional thing. Pre-release photos does show that the game was significantly more ambitious at first, having multiple playable characters and even all of the animal friends. Maybe the holding enemies gimmick could be some sort of relic from early development? Heck, maybe it was Waddle Dee's playstyle. DG would obviously use his hammer and Adeline has a lot of potential with the painting, especially after her boss in Dream Land 3, but Waddle Dee is just a Waddle Dee. We now have Bandanity to show what they can do now, but at the point of the series Kirby 64 released, Waddle Dees were solely the cute Goombas of the series and nothing else. Though, unfortunately, that's all up for speculation. At the end of the day, we're just left with this weird game mechanic that the developers left in Kirby 64, which nobody really knows about. Hopefully this video could shed some light towards it, but even then it's not like you can really do much about it. But at least now I can be sure that I know the full extent of this mysterious mechanic.